kids, I am Teacher Ann, and for today's lesson, we're going to discuss the soil erosion and its effects. Have you noticed the muddy water flowing swiftly downstream after a heavy rain? Where does the water get its load and where will it deposit this load? You may have seen how mechanical and chemical weathering slowly break rocks into smaller pieces. From where they are formed, the forces of wind and water pick them up and carry them elsewhere. The process of depositing completes a cycle of continuous breaking down and building up of earth crust. This lesson will explain the difference between weathering and erosion, causes and effects of soil erosion on living things and environment will be discussed fully, including some ways to prevent or reduce. So how erosion differs from weathering? The forces of weathering are responsible for the breaking of rocks. The particles or sediments do not stay in one place. They are transported to different parts of Earth's surface. The transportation of rock particles elsewhere is a process called erosion. Like weathering, erosion is brought about by agents like wind and water, compared to others on the surface of Earth. These two forces are constantly at work, thus they bring about important changes on the surface of Earth. Evidence of their continuous action is the last amount of finer particles called soil, which is formed and distributed on the surface of Earth. While weathering occurs so slowly that it is seldom noticed, erosion can be more rapid. The deposition or setting of the finer particles of rock or sediment carried by wind or water can easily be seen. This build-up is faster than the decomposition of rocks. As soon as the particles are removed from where they are formed, the fresh surface of the rock is open to the forces of weathering again. In some cases, weathering and erosion occur simultaneously and it is hard to draw a line between them. Wave action, for instance, as an agent of weathering, can be considered an erosive force too. After the rocks are broken into pieces, they are carried away just as fast. Wind is an agent of weathering as well as erosion. So let's proceed to the causes of erosion. First is the water erosion. Water is continuously cycled into the air and back to its sources such as natural bodies of water and the ground. When rain falls, water joins the oceans, streams, and lakes. Part of the water flows through innumerable rivers and streams and deposits its load in the ocean. Water that sinks into the ground forms groundwater. Compared to other agents, running water accomplishes the greatest change on Earth by erosion. After the rain, the runoff dissolves fine rock particles as it flows. The strong force of the runoff carries pebbles, sand, and finer particles on its way down until these are deposited last and are therefore carried farthest away. So how does a stream erode rocks and soil? Anyone? Okay, very good. Once gullies become a stream, more erosion occurs. A stream moves sediments. This constant motion erodes the stream bottom, forming a valley. When streams enter rivers, the water slows and drops sediments. So let's proceed to the next one. It is the splash erosion. Raindrops falling on the soil exert pressure with their weight. This weight can be easily felt when raindrops strike an umbrella or a hat. Raindrops makes noise on roofs and walls. The force of the wind adds to the force with which they strike Earth's surface. This can cause a noticeable movement of the soil. If the soil is loose and it is not protected by a covering on the surface, then a large amount of it is lost through raindrop erosion, which is also called splash erosion. During the rainy season, splash soil may be observed at the foot of garden pots and cement walls. Do you understand, class? Okay, let's proceed to the next one. The sheet erosion. Water which does not evaporate or immediately sink into the soil is called a runoff. During heavy rains, there is more water than what the soil can immediately absorb. Water then flows in broad sheets across a wide area, thus causing sheet erosion. Splash and sheet erosion are greatly feared by humans because they remove valuable topsoil from the land. Raindrops loosen the surface and water that flows in broad sheets carries away the fertile layer of the soil, making the farms less productive. Sheet erosion likewise produces gullies while ruining crops. Next is the wind erosion. Recall your experiences during a windy day. Did you feel that dust blown by the wind? Okay, the rock particles picked up by the wind are deposited elsewhere, forming hills of sand called sand dunes. These dunes may grow as high as several meters, especially when something stands in the way to slow down the wind and thus make it drop its load. Dunes may be blown to other places, the movement always being in the direction of the prevailing wind. The process of wind carrying away loose sediment is called deflation. Deflation occurs primarily in desert regions. As the wind blows along the ground, it scoops up and carries away the loose sediment such as sand and dust. The large pebbles left behind form a hard surface called desert pavement. Some area of the Kansas, USA that became known as Dust Bowl disaster in 1930 was caused by deflation. The wind blows rock particles away and these wear down exposed rock surface. This process is called abrasion. The cutting force of the sharp-edged particles borne by the wind slowly breaks rocks into smaller pieces that are then carried away. Both the particles in the wind and the rock surface they strike wear out slowly over perhaps hundreds of years. Erosion by abrasion is especially common at the seashore. Sand is mostly quartz and is hard and usually sharp, making it an efficient abrasive material. It's like a sandpaper, working constantly on hard surface while being swept by the waves and the wind. So let's proceed to the erosion by gravity. Bits of rocks are separated and fall down to a lower level because of gravity. As you know, everything on the Earth's surface is being pulled toward its center. Hence, their tendency is to fall down. When gravity moves rock and soil down a slope, it is called mass movement. Do you understand, class? Okay, if broken are on a steep slope or at the edge of a cliff, they roll down faster and carry with them other particles on their way. This is why there are piles of rocks at the bases of cliffs and mountains. The whole slope may move slowly downhill without being noticed. A sudden movement is known as a landslide. So landslides often occur after heavy rains or after earthquakes. Do you understand? Very good. Now let's proceed to the next one. The glacial erosion. When the amount of the snow is so great that it cannot completely melt, glaciers form. As the layers of snow pile up, the weight on the underlying snow increases. Eventually, this weight tightly packs the snow underneath, forming glacial ice. The pressure on the ice at the bottom becomes so great that it partially melts. The entire ice mass starts moving and a glacier is formed. That is some causes of erosion. Do you get it? Okay, very good. So let's proceed to the other factors affecting erosion. Other factors that cause erosion are made by humans, such as the following. Number 1 is the deforestation, clearing of trees, transforming a forest into cleared land. Number 2 is the intensive farming. Farmers use excessive fertilizer and irrigation damages the land. Number 3, housing development and road construction make the soil bare. Now, let's proceed to the ways of preventing and reducing soil erosion. Although soil erosion is a natural process, it has devastating impact on Earth in most cases. Human activities have greatly caused erosion. After discussing the damaging effects of erosion, it is important that a collective effort be made to prevent soil erosion. These are several ways of preventing or reducing soil erosion. This can be achieved through agricultural practices and individual measures and concerns. Now, let's go to the agriculture soil conservation. Number 1 is the terracing method in farming. This type of farming method uses the topography of the land to slow down the flow of water through a series of terraces. This will control the water from flowing fast, which can wash the soil from the farmland. Number 2 is the contour farming. This method is similar to terracing but on a smaller scale. Instead of planting crops in straight vertical rows, crops are planted following the contour of the landscape to slow down the flow of water that prevents soil erosion. Number 3 is the strip cropping. In this method, the plants are arranged in strips with rows of the main crop alternated with rows of a cover crop. The cover crop further helps to protect the soil from erosion. Do you understand, class? Okay, now let's proceed to the individual measures and concerns. Number 1 is the conserving soil by minimizing the occurrence of processes that will erode and remove the mineral content is everybody's concern. A cooperative effort among members of the community and most especially the school population who are well informed regarding the importance of soil is necessary. Number 2 is plant grasses and ground cover on barren lands, gardens, or sports fields. The grass or ground cover will help retain the soil when these areas are exposed to rain or wind. Number 3, make sure that homes have enough draining and water collection system. This will prevent the flow of gushing water that will wash away all the topsoil in and around your home. Number 4, since our country thrives mainly on agriculture, all of us should campaign against deforestation because such practice loosens the soil. Loss of valuable soil content can greatly affect our economy. Number 6, another way is a massive campaign against illegal logging and deforestation. We have to be concerned about the preservation of our forests. We should encourage others to participate in preserving and maintaining our environment. Our global warming and pollution problems will also help us realize the importance of planting. If only all of us will follow the different ways given, then we can preserve our environment. Do you understand? Very good. That's the end of our lesson. Thank you again, class, for listening and watching. Goodbye.